Askewed View. I'm your host, Travis Hayward, here as always with the great Jordan Branches. And today we are going to be delving into something a little bit differently. Lately we've been discussing each week the films of Kevin Smith, all of the films that he's directed. Now that we've gotten through those, we want to take a step into films that he has acted in, but it had no say in the writing or directing portion. So the first film that we're going to be taking a look at here is a 2006 romantic comedy film called Catch and Release, starring Jennifer Garner.
It's such a strange beast. It really is. Like, when we talk about the other films that he's acted in, there's kind of a reason why he's there. Right? Like, we talk about the Die Hard, talk about Daredevil, stuff like that. He's there because pretty much he's a fan, and it's almost like a nod of the hat to the fact that he's involved in it, right? But this, it's almost out of nowhere. He's a man out of place.
Yeah, it really does kind of feel that way. It's not really something that you'd expect to see him in, and it just really, I don't know, I'm trying to find the words to describe it, because this movie really feels like 10 different movies in one. Like the way that it, the way that like the story just kind of jumps from like one angle to another. It's like, oh, it turns out he's cheating on me. Oh, wait, the kid's not even his. Oh, wait, this, just,
he's cheating on me once? No, it's actually a whole bunch of times. Like, I pick a subplot, go with it. Or like, he's a horrible person. We should definitely get together. That's going to be our love interest. And I feel like there's probably a really good story in there, but like they were too interested in making it like a rom-com, so they just stuffed it with other rom-com tropes. And like, the whole reason why Kevin Smith is in there is to be like a comic relief. Both him and the character he plays off of, a guy who I've never seen before and never seen again, as opposed to comic relief, they didn't need to be there at all.
Yeah, it's it really doesn't. That like even when their characters pop up, they're kind of like the funny, goofy characters, but at the same time, they don't really. Their characters don't really add so much to the story.
They're like, literal padding. That's what they are. They're walking, talking, padding to the film.
Yeah, that's really all they're there for. And then there's like that whole scene where like Kevin gets he ends up like overdosing at some point or something, and it's like that was random.
Yeah, and it's talked about for like another 5 minutes, and then forgotten about, and then one of the other characters makes fun of him for it. And it's
that was a serious.
Yeah, and then you find out that like it wasn't even really an overdose. He just took 2 sleeping pills. They freaked out, and then he went to the hospital. It just didn't really they didn't lean into it. They weren't willing to commit to it enough. Like, if you're gonna make the guy try and commit suicide, at least make it a little more not as family friendly, I guess. If you're gonna bring up suicide, really bring up suicide.
Yeah, I mean, because otherwise, it kind of feels like it's like bastardizing suicide, and that's not something that that should be taken lightly. So it really, it's to see it in the film that's supposed to be kind of, sort of family centric. I mean, it really just it comes off kind of weird.
I don't know. Is it family centric? I mean, I'm sort of torn on that. Like, I genuinely don't know who the audience was for this film.
That's true. That is true. I mean, I get the sense where it's kind of it's a friendship movie, but then at the same time, it's also a romance movie mixed in with, just a sort. It has a sort of kind of. Sometimes there's like a little bit of. I don't know, I guess sort of an indie vibe to it. But
yeah, a little bit, just enough. Yeah. The one thing I can really say that I liked about the movie, though, with the soundtrack. The soundtrack was surprisingly good. Yeah, like when the Grateful Dead popped up in there, I got to give it credit for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was sweet, and I mean the cast in the movie is great. I mean, it's just the script is strange, but I mean we've got Jennifer Garner and Timothy Olyphant, and I mean of course Kevin, and then Juliette Lewis is in the movie.
Yeah, she pops up out of nowhere. Yeah. And the mom from Harry Potter. You and I were talking about. She's in there.
Fiona Shaw. Yeah.
Yeah, her. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's there's so many there's so many like just great talents working on this movie. It feels kind of weird that that like it kind of came out as just this kind of jumbled mess. But it's
well, okay.
I don't know.
Here's the real question. I forgot this movie existed until we talked about it. Do you remember this movie?
When it came out, I mean, I do remember seeing because I used to be an old school VSQ message board member back in the day when I was a teenager, and it's like yeah, and I remember seeing like they would play the ads for this all the time on the site. I remember because it was like right around the time Clerks 2 was coming out was when this came out, and they both came out the same year, I think, and there were like they would always run these ads like all throughout the site for this movie, and I was like, what is this? And like, why?
It was the same year as Clerks 2, which is baffling in my head. You think that he would have devoted all his time to it. How did he get talked into this?
Yeah, that he does actually talk about this in his book, My Boring Ass Life. Which is great if anybody ever wants to pick that up. It's fantastic. It chronicles the entire pretty much. It's kind of it's basically a daily diary that he had originally done online, and then they converted it into a book format. But it basically chronicles pretty much every day of his life from 2004 to 2006, like to the Clerks 2 premiere. Like it's literally every day of his life. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, and it goes through like the entire production. Well, his experience on the production of this movie, and he said that he actually got the reason that he wanted to do this and ended up agreeing to do it apparently had to do with he was actually asked to come audition for it, and he was just so taken aback by that because up until that point Kevin wasn't really known as an actor so much as other than Silent Bob he really wasn't, and he picked the role of Silent Bob solely so he wouldn't have to memorize dialogue,
Right, and it's specifically a non-talking role except for like occasionally. So having him do monologues is great, but having him constantly talk might not be the best idea.
Yeah, it was interesting, but yeah, he had been asked to do it. I guess I don't know. Maybe they saw how because in his interviews and everything, he's very energetic. So it's maybe I don't know. Maybe they thought that. I'm not sure where that came from, and he wasn't sure either. But I remember reading he said that he was so taken aback by it, he took them up on their offer. He went, he read for the part, he did it, and then. He drove out. I remember he details everything because he had to drive out to Santa Monica, and it was a really hot day. And he's basically the whole because they're done in journal entries. So every journal entry is about how he doesn't want to go to this fucking audition. And it's drive across town. He's bitching this whole thing. And then then comes the journal entry where he's it just got home, got the email from such and the director's name, Susannah, or I'm blanking on her last name, but he got the email from her saying, "Oh, we've always wanted you. That was just a formality." Then he's like, first I was overjoyed. I was like, I had to drive to fucking Santa Monica.
See, I heard a slightly different story though. I heard that Jason Lee was supposed to be in his role, and then somehow the director saw him do his comedy specials. And that's why, I'm sure that's the first half of the story, but apparently the role was supposed to go to Jason Lee originally. And they're two so very different personalities.
Yeah, that is different. Yeah, okay. I didn't realize that. I'm going to have to go back and look at that now. But yeah, that's, wow, I didn't even realize that. But yeah, you're right. Those are two very distinct personality.
So apparently Jason Lee couldn't do it because he was going to be in either The Incredibles or My Name is Earl or something that took him away, and then somehow Kevin Smith came to their attention and they went with him. And there are a lot of elements of the Kevin Smith crew within there, but it's it's so very much not a Kevin Smith film, and you can tell,
No,
and not in the same with a Cop Out. isn't a Kevin Smith film. More like he's just popping his head in and, oh, look, it's Kevin Smith. Almost the same way that, like, Stan Lee pops up in films, right? Because as much as his character is whatever the hell his character's name is, it's Kevin Smith. He's playing Kevin Smith. I couldn't tell you the names of anybody in this film, but I know he's playing Kevin Smith.
That's true. I mean, then that's honestly, I mean, a lot of the time, whenever we do see Kevin act, he legit is playing Kevin Smith. I mean, even
or something like Reboot, where he's himself playing himself.
He literally is himself playing himself.
He's very comfortable in the role.
Oh yeah, you can tell. But it's so funny every time I watch that and I see that scene where he comes out on stage and I'm like, that's him. Like, that's literally
but I mean, good. Even in Catch and Release, like half the time we see him, he's wearing a 37 jersey. Like, come on, if that isn't like fourth wall meta breaking, like, oh my God, it's Kevin Smith. I don't know what is.
Exactly. That's exactly. I wanted to bring that up too, because that is the scene where it comes on and he's wearing that. It tore me completely out of the movie, because I was like, that is his, because he used to, at that point in time, you know, Kevin is very infamous for only wearing one outfit for like 3 or 4 years, and then he'll switch. You know, like, but like there for a bit, he was wearing the Edmonton Oilers jersey for about like 4 or 5 years. Then he switched to Blackhawks jerseys. Then he switched to the suit jacket that he's wearing now, and so on and so forth. This was his look, like circa 2004, 2005, 2006, was those 37 vest things, the shirt vest, whatever you'd call it. That was his look at the time. And like when that scene comes up and he's wearing that, I was like, what, the motherfucker, you let him wear his own shirt?
Yeah, it's like we just can't afford a costume department. We'll just let him do whatever. Yeah.
And I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think on the back of it, doesn't it still say Schwalbach, like his wife's name?
I'm pretty sure it does.
I think it does, because that shirt, I remember that shirt, like it had Schwalbach written across the back, because that's. Like, I think it still has it.
Clearly, he's committing to the character. But yeah, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of. Oh, and apparently, this film is like historically. I mean, as much as everybody forgets it exists, apparently it was fundamental in, I guess, the rift between Kevin and Ben Affleck, because Affleck was dating Jennifer Garner at the time, and I guess she didn't like Kevin, and like. They just stopped hanging out, and that started this whole rift.
Yeah, that was sort of the beginning of it. Kevin hasn't really, and I mean kind of rightfully so, he hasn't really spoken much about that, other than Jen Gardner don't like me, like that, and he just kind of leaves it at that. So I don't know what exactly had happened there, and he's been quiet about it, you know, so I mean, but yeah, it's strange. I'm not sure what was exchanged on this set that made that happen, but I know it would have had to have happened here. So, but yeah, that was kind of the start of the rift between him and Ben. You know, just kind of drifting further apart, because Jen didn't like Kevin. I think she found him offensive a couple times. There's actually a we'll have to do an episode on this. The Dinner for Five show Kevin hosted.
Oh yes, yeah.
The Favreau's show. But yeah, there's an episode of that. It was like to promote Daredevil, I think, and it had Ben and Jen, and Stan Lee was in the episode, and Kevin, and they were just sitting around the table, and the show is just basically these celebrities have a conversation over dinner, and that's literally all it is. But it's fast.
Well, I completely forgot Jon Favreau was actually a fundamental character in Daredevil, and I completely forgot about
it. He played Foggy Nelson. Yeah. So there's a lot of great names in that movie. But he in the Dinner for Five show, you can kind of see the where Jennifer does, because Kevin and Ben are really good friends. They're ribbing each other, and Kevin's like really, kind of giving Ben a hard time, like making a lot of gay jokes at his expense, yada yada. And Jennifer's like, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna kick your ass. Like,
wow!
You can see it in her eyes, like the way. And I'm just like, whoa.
That's clearly the best friend we're just going to cut out of your life for your own good. It was one of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So I don't know the whole story behind that, but yeah.
Well, that being said, Catch and Release was after Daredevil. So whatever the rift was and all that, it was probably fairly well established by the time they got on set.
Yeah, and well, that was another thing that that kind of threw me, because I know that in the book, it's been a while since I picked up Boring Ass Life, but I do remember in the book, Kevin never, and at least never in any of the journal entries, did he ever like say anything bad about that, or that they had fought or anything. Like, it seemed like a real, like, amicable set. If anything, he kind of talks shit on Affleck during that time because he was kind of mad at him for something. But yeah, I don't know. He never really specifies it in the book. He's never specified it much beyond, she don't like me. Other than that, he hasn't really gone in depth about it. So I'm not sure what really happened there. But yeah, this was it was kind of whatever it was. It began. I guess it began to brew on the set somewhere.
So there is one thing you and I briefly talked about with this film, and it bugged me a little. And I'm amazed, Kevin, and unless he just leaned into it and thought it was a good idea, or just contributed to, especially coming from where we are now. Like, one of the main defining characteristics of his character in the film is the fact that he eats. The first 15, 20 minutes he was on screen, he's constantly eating. And then you see him get all excited, and, like, he gets all these new, like, kitchen hardware and stuff, and he instantly makes food. And, like, it's like he's fat. Get it? He's fat. We're just going to keep reminding you. And I'm amazed he agreed to that.
Yeah, it kind of, that kind of threw me too, because they really do kind of push that button, like, hey, it's the fat funny friend, blah, 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 and like they really do, like every time you see him, he's like in his bathrobe, lounging around, being lazy, he has a slice of pizza or whatever, it's like,
yeah,
it's just, they kind of play him off as like the fat slob friend that, that's kind of funny, and it's like, Kevin's so not that guy, he's so not,
no.
Just lazy and shift about. And I mean, even at that time when he was the heavier weight, I mean, even then he wasn't like, the guy has always been the hardest working guy ever.
Yeah, he's not defined by the fact that he's, was on the bigger side. It's never been one of his major personality traits. But to make it just seemed like a two-dimensional gimme kind of thing that, I don't know, might be fine for some like lesser known BC actor, but for Kevin Smith, by this time he's had 7, 8 movies under his belt. The guy is a well-known director and actor, and he's got a whole legacy behind him. Treat him like that, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, that is kind of how I felt as well. And I mean, and throughout this whole show here, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like we're in any way kind of disparaging Kevin or anybody that was involved with this, like, not at all. Just it's kind of, it's weird that it's just it feels so out of place, like kind of for, someone that we know so well and feel so close to is put into this film that's like absolutely nothing like anything else he's ever been involved with, so it's
okay. The only reasoning I can think of is, like we constantly bring up, is maybe he's just trying to get out of his comfort zone and try something new. Maybe it's just so he can have a new experience of being in a movie like this, being an actor where he's very clearly not Silent Bob. But if that were the case, having him essentially be Kevin Smith in the film, it's just such an odd choice. Like, they got to decide, is Kevin Smith going to be an actor and be someone else and get a bunch of range, or is he just going to be Kevin Smith and we're going to film that and work the story around it?
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel like that, and it just just the formula, it just doesn't add up. I mean, it just he really just kind of sticks to just kind of playing himself, and it really that's all that it feels. That's really just all that it feels like. And I mean, that being said, he is funny in there, and he is sort of a breath of fresh air because everybody else around him sticks to the romantic comedy
archetypes. And he's the only one that sort of breaks it a little bit, but still not quite enough.
Yeah, definitely not. And it's, it's weird. Like even the plot of this movie is kind of jumbled. I mean, it's, it starts with Jennifer Garner's character. She's recently widowed, and Kevin and Sam Jaeger's characters were her fiance's best friends, and then the rest of the movie is kind of them forming a bond after the passing of the friend. But then there's like all this extra stuff added in with it turns out he has $1 million in the savings account, but since we weren't married, I'm not going to get any of it. And he's saving it for a love child that he had behind my back that I didn't know about. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, no, that's not actually
they hop from important to important and then just forget about it. Like they still never really
kind of a soap opera.
Rectify the fact that he had $1 million. Where did that $1 million come from? No one ever bothered. I mean, after the woman comes into the picture, the love child thing, no one talks about the money. I'm more dubious about the money than I am about the cheating. The cheating is more likely to happen. Coming into $1 million, you got to say that no one talks about it. You never knew about. You got to start asking questions. And within like the first 10 minutes, Kevin's character actually brings it up because he didn't know about it. No one knows. I don't think anybody actually, when they wrote this thing, I don't think they had a legit reason for it. Just, he's $1 million. That's why none of the characters, his supposed family and best friends, have any clue. But like Kevin's character just comes up and instantly like offends him. Oh yeah, I'm sure it's from something good and blah blah blah. And she's just waiting to tell you. But like you can drive trucks through the plot holes.
It really I don't know. It just a lot of it really, there's a lot of plot holes, a lot of stuff that doesn't quite make sense, a lot of stuff that just makes you question, wait, what? I don't know.
Well, all right, let's talk about Kevin's character there, right? So his thing is that, and it took me a little while to figure this thing out, he actually works for what's the tea company? Some famous tea company in Colorado, and he comes up with the sayings on the tea bags or whatever, and that's pretty much all he does. He just keeps re-quoting these famous quotes, but they came from the teas, and that's it. That's his gimmick. That and food. Like, I swear this thing was like a first draft script that someone shot.
That's what that is what it feels like. It feels like there were no modifications made to this, nothing added.
Oh no, none. Well, let's not follow this logic, see where it goes. Let's just stop it here and the audience will forget about it. Well, the fact that Timothy Olyphant is apparently just a horrible person, but they turn him into the love interest. Which doesn't, like, I saw that coming from a mile away, but I really hope they would make him slightly more redeemable. But again, he's also Timothy Olyphant. So let's have him just be Timothy Olyphant. They'll add in all this backstory that makes him bad, but then the music and the way it's directed tells you something completely different.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, I don't know, like it's just his character even feels just really out of place at times. I mean, because in the beginning of the movie, he's, kind of this asshole. I mean, he's like, it's during his, the friend's funeral, and he's like, having sex in the bathroom. And it's like, it's like, and then it's like, wow, what an asshole. And then finally it gets to, like the point where it turns around, like, oh, like, no, Jennifer.
He's going to be our Prince Charming. This guy hooked up with the waitress at his best friend's funeral. That's the guy we want him to fall in love with. and there is, I brought this up before, but it's like one of my major pet peeves in modern filmmaking is if you take these rich white characters and then you give them nothing to lose. So let's look at Jennifer Garner in situation one, right? Husband died, inherited $1 million. And she's fine. She's not that bad off. Friend comes into her life, or his best friend comes into her life. Life gets gets turned upside down, finds out, husband isn't all that good. She decides to go to, on a whim, apparently not telling him at all, which is a strange detail to put in. She drove across the country to surprise him that she was going to, move in with him to live on his private beach in Malibu. So where's the bad? Like, where does anything bad happen to her other than the fact that her sleazeball husband apparently died?
Yeah, and it makes you think, like, well, but was that such a bad thing,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I saw an hour and a half of nothing that bad happening to people that had nothing at stake.
Exactly. Like, there's nothing that really stands out and makes you, like, really care about these characters, It's like, it's kind of like, all right, Like, it just, I don't know, it's strange, but we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be diving in further into this what the fuck did I watch?
Thanks for calling the break. I was looking at the watch, trying to figure out a good spot for it.
Oh yeah, well I just saw we were coming. All right, and we are back with more of this. What the fuck did I watch movie moment?
It's odd that that's the reaction you went for, because I had that exact reaction for Yoga Hosers. This is more I watched it, and then 30 seconds later, I completely forgot I watched it. This is one of those very, like, you expected, like, the $3 bin at Walmart. It's very definitely one of those free streaming things. I found it on Crackle. It's just one of those. It's a forgettable film. It's one of those middle-of-the-road romantic comedies that exists to keep you happy for like an hour and a half. And then that's really about it. Like, I'd seen no reason for anybody to own this film.
That's true. Yeah, it really, it really didn't light the world on fire. It wasn't, you never hear anybody talk about it. I think I guess it ran on cable TV a bunch, maybe. But I mean,
and I'm sure it still does. I'm sure it's
I'm sure. Yeah.
If you're looking for filler, I'm sure it's there. And the thing is, I don't think Kevin would really take offense to us talking about it like this, because it's just it's not a blip on anybody's radar.
Yeah, no, it's just, and I don't think so either. And I mean, another thing like this wasn't, and I mean that's kind of also why I feel like. My opinion is different with Yoga Hosers, because like Yoga Hosers is actually the creation of Kevin's, so
right.
It's like that you can feel that he's in there, but this is sort of something that he just kind of got roped into, and it it really doesn't, or at least that's kind of how it feels, it doesn't really feel like it's him, it doesn't have his essence to it. It's just, I mean, yeah, he's playing himself essentially, but I mean it's himself, but then yet not himself at the same time.
The odd thing is, and we're going to come up on other films that he's acted in, again, like Daredevil or Die Hard or things like that, I actually really like him in those roles. But with this, where he actually has a significantly larger role, I'm not a fan. It's so strange. You'd think I would be, but it's like the bizarro Tyler Perry effect. Like, I really don't like Tyler Perry movies that he's directed. I really don't like him. It is. There's a whole other podcast dedicated to just that. But like, when Tyler Perry, I have no idea why. But when Tyler Perry is acting in a production that he's not, the director of and all of that, he's actually pretty good. Like, hate to say it, like Star Trek. He had like a 5-minute role in Star Trek, and it wasn't bad. Yeah. It was actually pretty decent. And
That's true,
Alex Ross, I want to say, or Gone Girl, right? Gone Girl. He was great in Gone Girl.
Oh yeah, he's excellent in Gone Girl.
And these are things is like the bizarro version of Tyler Perry, right? Because when Kevin Smith is acting in something he's not remotely related to, that's kind of boring and not all that good.
Yeah, that's sort of how I felt as well. And I mean, it's just, and I don't know if I feel like it's so much him. It's just like it's not his fault. It's just the material that he's given.
Oh no, not at all. I can't put any of this on him. Things I really don't put any of this on Jennifer Garner or anybody else involved in the film. It's not because of them. It's the film as a whole. If anything, it falls on the director. You know, the director made this really bland film. It's not any of the actors' fault.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. And I mean, and I'm honestly, I'm not really too brushed up on the director here. I'm not really sure what else happened before.
I have a strange feeling this is like a director for hire type situation, because it feels like a director for hire type situation. Like, we have this movie that needs to be made. You have some minor qualifications. Let's do this.
It is just, it's really, okay. I was just looking this up right now. The director apparently was the screenwriter for Aaron Brockovich.
Okay, that's a good. Well, I mean, even that being said, I'm amazed the writing wasn't better then. It's like, once again, maybe the studio just neutered the whole film. And then the problem you probably run into is because when you bring in Kevin Smith, you have both, you know, our writer, a director, an editor, our producer. You've got all this major muscle coming with it, and then I don't think they did anything with it. Like, I remember, well, actually earlier today, I was watching part of a Kevin Smith special where it's talking about being on Die Hard, and I guess they had him rewrite some of the script when he was on Die Hard. And, like, that's making use of Kevin and his skills. And if you bring him for a minor role, you have someone who's clearly qualified to work on these things. If you're unhappy with part of the film, use what you got.
Yeah, and that actually happens with a lot of. I don't believe it happens so much with this, but I know that that happens a lot on films where that Kevin has just acted in. Like, he has offered, like, up his own dialogue and, like, rewritten the scene to fit. You know, like, just to kind of tighten things up a little better. I mean, I know he did that on Live Free or Die Hard with his scene, and I believe he's also done that with some of the episodes of Supergirl he did. I think he tightened up the scripts for
I could see that
here and there. Yeah, so it's like, you know, he does occasionally. I mean, I guess when he's allowed, I mean, he definitely does offer up his you know, his skills for that as well. But this one, I don't. You know, it's like you don't really feel any of that. Like, it doesn't.
It's so strange because I can't see the studio doing something like, no, this is definitely going to be our blockbuster for the winter. We have to, you know, no interference. You know, we have a vision for this. We can't mess it up. This is going to be our tent pole for the summer. You know.
Yeah. I really don't see how. And I mean, even given the time it was, because I mean, granted, this was made, you know, in the time before there were the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies or any of those giant blockbusters like that. But I mean, at the same time, it's like, even then, this is, you know, just kind of you know, a date night, take your girlfriend to see this movie.
It's a date night. It's going to be in the theater for like a month and then pop up on DVD and, you know, maybe watch it at home on a date. It's literally a date night movie.
Yeah, that's really all it is, you know. But
so, that being said, next week, I promise you we're going to have far more interesting material, and we're going to dive into something way, way more eccentric, more Kev style. But this is just another path on the road down Kevin's career that needs to be looked at. It's a conundrum, but, you know, we can't not look at it.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so much, and there's actually a lot that he's acted in but hasn't written or directed. I mean, he's appeared in Daredevil, like we mentioned. There's a TV show that he did called Hollyweed. There's even he appeared in Richard Kelly's film Southland Tales. He's in that for a little bit. So So
he's in Degrassi. He shows up in Degrassi. You know,
that's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Scream 3 as Jay and Silent Bob. He's in Scream 3.
Yes, in Scream 3. Yeah, and also in Degrassi as well. They show up as Jay and Silent Bob.
So yeah, there's so much to do, and even all of this, just talking about those. They just feel far more interesting. No, not just because it's Jay and Silent Bob, but because it's, I don't know, something about it just far more interesting.
Yeah, it's this. I gotta say, you know, as much as I love Kevin, as much as I'm the biggest Kevin Smith fan in the world, this one really just doesn't. I mean, you know, it's like, I know it exists. I've seen it. I'm cool with it. This isn't really one that I kind of migrate back to, you know. But I mean, and again, it's nothing. against him. It's just the material as a whole just didn't really do it for me. But I always encourage everyone to check it out if you feel the same way.
I got asked the question that I don't know, the obvious question. Since you are the Kevin Smith super fan, do you own this film?
I do not, actually. I think.
Okay. All right.
I actually. Yeah, this one actually I came to much later. I want to say I think I saw it for the first time about 3 years ago.
Okay.
So this one's like I missed it when it came out, and like I ended up fairly within the last few years, and it was I don't know. It just this one's kind of but I mean
Well, if anybody is interested, this is streaming for free on Crackle. There are commercials, but you don't really notice them.
There you go. So if you want to check it out, let us know what you think about this.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you think we're right. We're really curious what you think about this movie. Let us know below.
Totally. Well, I guess we're getting to be about that time. We're going to be signing off for this week, but I'm Travis Hayward.
I'm Jordan Brandis.
And this has been our Askewed View. This has been this week's episode of An Askewed View. Please remember to like and share us on wherever you listen to podcasts.